Did you want to march summer again, or were you just content doing the winter line?
No, I wanted to march summer. So we talked earlier about like the 2 drum lines I saw in person, right?
Yeah.
RCC and then Vanguard.
Yeah.
So I wanted to march Vanguard. That's where the technique comes back, right? I played differently than they did with those Murray lines,
Yeah.
which is fine. That's their thing.
And that's interesting that you're a RCC winter guy, and then to go to Vanguard, because usually you don't see that typically.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Believe me, that whole first year, everybody told me that.
Yeah. Did you get a lot, for the lack of a better word, did you get a lot of shit from the guys for doing
I mean,
that?
the other members, I mean, they would
Yeah.
joke with me. They would rib me about it. You know, I got that for like almost the whole time that I was there. Like not all 5 years, but the first 3 years-ish.
So you go up to Vanguard for, is it the summer of 08?
9.
Summer of 09. Okay. And who was there? Murray and who else?
Murray, Brian Mason wrote the book. I knew that. I think Matt Ramey was there. A couple of those guys, but my technique was a little different than what they did, which is fine. Totally reasonable, you know? So that didn't work out. Came back. I knew Matt Altmaier was teaching at Pacific Crest.
Yeah.
And then I knew him and Murray marched together, so I was like, oh, it's right here. It's probably going to be, like, it could probably prepare me, you know? So I did that in 2009.
So you did PC in 09.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I did that. Met a couple friends there, too, you know, did that
That
summer.
was, and was that more of a full-ish tour?
That one was, like, maybe 4 weeks.
Okay.
So they hadn't been doing the full tour yet. But this was after they did the 2 mini tours, how groups used to do it way back in the day, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So did PC09, came back, went back to RCC 10.
And those were like, you know, I mean, being able to make it through that 09 season. And a lot of people remember Totem. Like a lot of people, you know, that's you know, a touchstone year for a lot of people. Kind of like, almost like weirdly for people on the outside, right? It marks the beginning of a little bit of an era at RCC of that, you know, 09 going into the early 2010s. So you're still young at that point. You make your way through that. You make your way through a more substantial summer, right? Could you feel yourself just like, I mean, maybe not at the time, but were you like, you came back and you were like, okay, you were starting to get really kind of good at this?
I mean, I'll be honest, I kind of felt like that after 2009 RCC.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the staff did a great job of preparing us for WGI finals, and then after that, you're just kind of like, after you experience WGI finals, you kind of have like this sense of like, okay, I can do this, right. And then it's like, okay, now that part of that box is like kind of checked. How good can I get at this? How can I like do these things that I want to do? Because I mean, I have a bad habit of wanting to do different things that don't make it easy to do both at the same time, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that box was kind of checked. I wouldn't say like after 2009, that summer I came back and I was like, yeah, I was like, that kind of already happened, you know?
Okay, you do PC, you go back to RCC. Do you go back to Vanguard, or did you try anywhere else?
I tried to go to Vanguard. They had a policy that year. You couldn't miss a camp. Like they had a 0 tolerance policy.
I remember that because this was sort of like the beginning of that. Like, oh,
I think Murray even talked about it a little bit.
yeah,
yeah,
the summer winter thing.
I mean, that just happened to be what they wanted to do.
Yeah,
you know, they committed to it. That's cool. You know, and then so that didn't work out. But I thought, okay, what would be my next best option in terms of like keeping that option open, the Vanguard option open. So I thought, what if I just did the Cadet Corps? If I did that and they needed an alternate, then I just come up. Yeah. You know, that's what I was thinking. I was like, well, that would be the option versus if I'm marching somewhere else. Sure. I did audition for other drum corps. I think I auditioned for Blue Coats. I got a call back, and then I told Mike Jackson, I was like, it just doesn't, even if I made it and I did the summer, my plan wasn't to stay there. And I was like, I don't want to do that, you know? But I mean, I'm sure Mike would have been cool, but still I don't want to do that to him.
It's interesting because it's like you have the hands to make these other world-class lines, but you're so set on Vanguard. But for whatever reason there's like some like, what's a good term? Some type of wall where it's like, you're not at Vanguard, but yet you still love Vanguard.
And Vanguard, I mean, when they were impactful on you like all those years ago, right? What was the thing? Was it like Vanguard, like the whole tradition and all the history? Was it that particular line? Was it the fact that Murray had gone back to teach there and you wanted to learn from him? What was the big, I have to go march Vanguard for this particular reason?
I think it was the first impression. Like I mentioned a couple times, this was the first group I saw, you know? I mean, also I exposed to a lot. I mean, Tony was the band director at Sure.
Oh, yeah. There. That makes a lot of sense,
you know?
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
There's a handful of us from Sure that ended up marching Vanguard after that, you know? It just kind of like the seeds get planted.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I don't know, it's cool. They had just won drums after that, like 04.
04.
Like when I went in, so I was just like, oh, they're the big dogs,
Right.
you know? And then I just kind of, it stuck with me. Plus, I mean, I liked it when Mike was there too.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about singing those beats. I could sing all those beats.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you put those videos on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. So, you do Vanguard Cadets?
Mm-hmm.
And there was no call up to the
No, but it's fine. I love that summer was a lot of fun. Actually,
Yeah.
it's one of the more fun summers.
Was that a full tour?
No, it was super chill. Like we went, we moved in late. I think that's how they did it. Even when I taught there, you move in late, like at mid-June or something. Do a couple weeks pre-tour piece of show together, and then you do a couple shows, then you come back and you rehearse still in the Bay Area.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went out on tour, I guess a little earlier, because we made a trip out to San Antonio. We did the San Antonio show, and then we went home, and then we were done.
Mm-hmm.
So we finished the season early. But if you're gonna take one trip, people talk about it. It's like, why didn't you just take the trip to Indy? But it's fine. I mean, I was chilling.
Yeah.
It was a fun summer.
And then, so after that, were you still doing like the RCC Fall Ender and all this?
No, I stopped doing the fall after that first year.
Okay.
So once I made the winter, I was like, okay, now I can not like chill, but I can go to school or like take some classes instead. Because the fall is a big commitment, 3 days a week.
So were you going to school at the same time?
Not really. Taking a couple classes here and there.
What, like
community college.
the East LA City College?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. They used to have a drum corps show there?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was cool. It's a cool venue. They need to get it back.
I know.
Yeah. So you do that. You go back. You do RCC again, correct?
Yeah, this is 2011 winter now.
Now, do the Blue Devil guys there reviews be like, dude, you could have been marching Blue Devils this whole time?
I mean, they've said that they could have said that. I mean, yeah, I'm sure they did.
But there were even, like Joel, right, was a Blue Coats guy, and I'm sure I don't know because I don't know Joel personally or anything like that. But from the outside, again, sort of hands wise, you're like, yeah. I mean, a lot of these guys in those RCC lines probably could have marched anywhere. A huge percentage of them did march Debs, but I think it's actually like a testament maybe to what was going on at RCC at the time that you did have that people could go and march at the highest levels at various groups, not just all the same group. And there wasn't any friction with regards to like being able to jump in the line and achieve what you needed to achieve, right? So, I mean, because RCC, those RCC lines were, 09, 10, 11, some really, really...
Oh, yeah, great lines.
Really, really good lines, As you were getting more and more, like, so now 11, so that's your third indoor season, right? Were you starting to identify what really worked for you as a focus individually, as a performer? Versus just taking in and becoming what you were taught,
I would say not yet. I would say I'm still taking in what I'm taught, and the confidence is growing just from the experience. You know, I remember that, but more of what you're talking about happens like the next year.
Okay.
But so 2011, that's when Paul gets to Vanguard. Yeah. And so I just spent like all these years trying to work up my technique for the Murray thing, right? Mm-hmm. Spent a summer at the Vanguard Cadets to kind of do that. And then I remember that news was kind of shocking. It's like, man, I just spent all this time just working for this specific thing, and now they flip it, right?
Yeah.
So,
and talk about flipping it in a really identifiable way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just like completely black and white. Both are cool. Both are super cool.
Right.
you know?
But again, sometimes you look at a line and the technique is, I don't want to say ambiguous, but it's not like it hits you in the face. Like they play the instrument a certain way.
Yeah.
But when you look at a Murray line and when you look at a Rennick line, they play the instrument a certain way.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's funny, like, I remember after when Paul went there, a friend of mine who I marched with was on staff there, Brian Lowe, they call him Chavez.
Yeah, Chavez.
Yeah, and we're talking about just the audition process. And he was like, yeah, we get these guys that come in and it's like, hey, play me some double beats. So, oh, you want to hear SCV double beats? Oh, no, just play me double beat. Because
Yeah,
he just
AB.
wanted, just
There's
AB.
AB.
Yeah. Because he just wants to hear the technique and stuff. But
Yeah.
so it's when you say you learn one way and then it's something completely different, it just reminded me of that story saying, like how he was like, no, just play double beat. I just want to hear how you play double beat.
So based on what was available to you, how did you reconcile that? How did you train or prepare yourself for those auditions?
I mean, there's a couple of things that happened. So I think I had gotten an old scanned PDF of like Paul's packet. I think I got that from Dave Miranda or something. And it just had all these basic exercises. I mean, that's what the packet still is to this day.
Oh, yeah.
But there used to be this old one that was scanned. Like some of the pages are crooked. They used to make its way around. It's not that anymore. Like there's a new one. It has the same stuff, but that scanned one, I just would go through it. And that's it. I mean, I couldn't find anything about the technique anywhere. So I was just like, all right, well, I'm just going to play how I know. And
just out of curiosity, was that old scan when you're talking about, is it handwritten or is it like?
No. It's made out of Finale or something.
Oh, okay. All right. I was going to have to hit him up for that. So
No.
Did you, but obviously there were all those Phantom lines.
Mm-hmm.
Did you, when you watched them, was your brain trying to decipher?
Yeah, I was trying to figure it out through the videos, but
had you been a fan of those Phantom lines?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
this sweater I'm wearing, I got this sweater in 2005.
Yeah.
Let's go.
And where was that? Gillette Stadium? Yeah. I love that show.
Mhm.
Rhapsody in Blue.
Yeah.
That one was cool. I didn't march in 07, but finals were in the Rose Bowl, so I went to that, So, a big fan of those lines. Obviously 06. I saw 08 in 2008. That was a cool finals experience. I'm friends with most of those Blue Devil guys. They had the opposite reaction to that night as I did.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm also friends with guys in that line too.
Yeah.
In the Phantom line.
Yeah.
But so 2011, I was watching videos and I was preparing, but at this point I'm like 20 years old, or it's like, okay, I got 2 left. I don't have time to play it safe or go through a system. So I actually went to audition with the Blue Devils because I was like, well, if that doesn't work out or whatever, I mean, or maybe for whatever reason I don't like what's going on over there. Maybe it's not what I wanted, or I don't know, whatever. You can think about it in many ways, but if I was like, okay, if I go to Blue Devils, all my friends are already there. That box is checked. I might as well just give it a shot. They're on different weekends. So I went up, got a call back, came back down. The next weekend I went to Vanguard auditions, and I was like, well, time to show up, time to go for it. And I was just working at it, and I was like, okay, cool. By the end of the camp, I'm on the drum, which usually means you make a callback, right? And I'm like, okay, cool. Made a callback. All right, let's see where we go from here. And then I'm talking to some of the guys, and then they used to give you these letters at Vanguard. I don't know if it was a sealed envelope. It was in an envelope, and they would hand it to you this is your name, boom, 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 and it'd give you your status, and I'd be opening it. And I'm like, all right, call back. And then I opened it, and it actually said contract.
Mm.
I was shocked. I was like, whoa, what is this?
Yeah.
So and then right then it was like, okay, cool. The next day I emailed Scott. I was like, hey, sorry. I didn't tell him I made Vanguard, but I told him, I was like, hey, I'm not going to audition anymore. I mean, he figured it out. He saw me,
Yeah.
That's cool though. You at least had, the courtesy to do that.
Yeah. And it sounds like, I mean, even that story and when you were talking about with Mike Jackson at Bluecoats and stuff like that you had some integrity and respect for the process and some empathy for what they needed out of their performers, right? They needed to know that people were going to not that this wasn't a stepping stone for them. That people knew that that they were respectful of the job that they had to do in terms of putting together a line, and so you didn't want to be purely selfish about it.
Yeah, I think I would also think like, man, if there's somebody who wanted to be in the blue coats as much as I wanted to be in the Vanguard,
Right.
I didn't want to be the person that like took a spot, instead of them or some,
That makes sense.
It just didn't feel like I would have as much fulfillment, or at least that's what I thought. I didn't know. I didn't have any experience. I was just like, it was just, that was what I wanted to do. So
That's an interesting moment, though. Opening the envelope, literally like Willy Wonka's golden ticket, and you're not inexperienced at the time. You're not just some young wide-eyed kid, right? You've drummed at a really high level for a number of years at that point. But this is the thing. Ever since that first seeing them, right? What did that feel like?
it was kind of shock. Like
Yeah.
the first thing I did, I went up to the regiment guys that came over.
Mm-hmm.
It was John, Dan, and I think Brandon. And I was like, hey, did you guys get contracted? Like, yeah. And I was like, oh, me too. And like, we barely knew each other. Yeah. I think that's the time when they were like, oh, I guess I should actually we should get to know each other now. We'd seen each other in passing. But it was cool. I mean, that moment, like that, because we would drive up and drive down. That drive down, I was just like, man, so much relief and just like, man.
After all these years of trying, you finally break through and make it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this, the next, what is it, Tuesday, I think we had a Tuesday night drill staging at RCC. Like Sean Vega comes up to me on the side. He's like, hey man, how'd it go this weekend? And I told him, I was like, I got it. I got in. He was like, shook my hand. He was so happy for me.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
So like he was part of it too, Like
Right.
everybody kind of knew about it.
Right.
Yeah, because I mean, you've done RCC, and it's like they know it's your dream to do Vanguard, and you finally break through, and it's like they're part of the process. They're with you.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, that's cool. So this was 2011, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So you march Vanguard 2011. You go back to RCC. You do that season. Are you like? Did you move closer to the center of the line, or
Where?
at RCC?
Yeah. After marching Vanguard,
Yeah,
I was center snare.
Oh, okay, cool. See,
I mean-
I'm a little
it's
skeptical
cool.
on
Then
these areas.
Then it's 2012. Yeah.
Oh, okay,
2012, I was center.
And that's obviously an iconic RCC year. Did you feel like, okay, yeah, I am the center? Like, or was there any sort of question about it? Because we haven't even talked about that at all. Like, sort of like going from being a youngster that everybody's sort of helping along, right, to becoming leadership. Because not everybody does that.
Yeah.
Not everybody does that. Was that a path that you saw and sort of wanted for yourself at all during the years leading up to it?
I mean, I don't want to say the writing is on the wall because I was 17, but you do the math. I was the only one who's going to be around by my fifth year.
Mm-hmm.
In 2009, like 2010, bunch of the crew came up that ended up staying
Right.
for like the last 4 years that I was there.
Yeah.
That big part of the success, the consistency of the membership. But that first year, 2009, it was like I was the only one in the line that was going to make it to 2013. So it's like, well, the odds right there is like the odds are pretty high, as long as I don't mess it up,
Yeah.
But that wasn't something I was like prioritizing that first year. I was trying to make my dot,
Yeah.
Right. But when you actually are then given the reins, right? Because there's one thing of just like you said, longevity, right? And you have more years and seniority, right? But then there's having the personality to do it. And everybody's different in terms of how they do it. Did you think at all about even just the prelude to the season? How am I going to do this gig?
Well, I will say that part you kind of pick up just from experience. Yeah, I'd done it 3 years. I mean, my first year, second leader was Matt Regua.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of stuff, I would just see him take charge, and I'm like, oh, that's just what a center snare does, And that's still part of kind of like what some of my philosophies are in terms of the autonomy and like how a leader should be. They motivate the section, they do that, and I was like, oh, like I had seen it, I'd experienced
Right.
it, firsthand. So it's like, oh, now I just need to recreate it. But as far as like it being handed to me, I didn't expect that. But so I show up to auditions and we're just hanging out. I mean, we're talking. I knew I had been in the conversation, but there was no sort of like center snare audition where you go in a room and hear people tap off, Yeah. But at the end of the night, I think Saturday night, so it was Friday, Saturday, Sunday auditions. I think at the end of Saturday night, Sean pulled me aside and talks to me, offers it to me. I think one of the things he said is like the fact that I stuck to my guns and I went to March Vanguard is like, I wasn't going to be swayed. It's like some sort of leadership quality that he's better talking than I am, you know, but